cars, and thanks to all of our teammates who tested here and obviously gave us a good baseline setup and a fast car.
Lap 49, that was your final pit stop. How were you able to go the distance on fuel?
Cautions. I just felt like, this race has always trended to be a lot of cautions at the end, and I felt confident that we were going to get the caution laps we needed to make it on fuel, and we did.
What were those closing laps like, those restarts?
Hectic. I mean, really, I didn't do anything special. It's just that the front two cars, the 2 and the 18, just overshot the corner on that one restart and gave us an opportunity. And then it was about just hitting my marks and making sure I didn't give those guys a chance like I gave Tony a chance at Sonoma. So, really proud of this effort. I mean, this is a great sign of things to come. I feel like we'll be a good threat in the chase.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Rick, up until today, Denny Hamlin had not led a single lap.
All right, we're going to get started with our post-race media availabilities for today's Cheez-It 355 at the Glen. We are joined by the driver of the number 34 CSX Play It Safe Ford, Chris Buescher. Chris, why don't you talk a little bit about your team's effort to get your car back out there today?
Yeah, it's really proud of the guys for getting it knocked out. That was unfortunate that I had to get out. Just splitter stuck in the mud over there around the carousel, and just couldn't get it moving. Couldn't get it in reverse. It wouldn't stay in. So basically just had to get out and. They assessed the damage during the red flag, got back in the car, and as soon as the caution came back out, they hustled, got it back fixed up, rolling, and pretty much saved our day. So, I owe a lot to them today. They made sure that we were able to stay in a points hunt. Not the way we want to do it, and we really can't have more days like that if we're going to try and get in that top 30. But, proud of them for their efforts to get it turned around.
All right, we'll open up for questions for Chris. If you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll get the mic to you.
Quiet crowd.
Stan Creekmore with RPMtonight.com. How much more out of this weekend did you get than you thought you might get 6 months ago?
For us, kind of hope we get a lot more than what we did. Watkins Glen is a place that I love to come race at. Ran really well in the Xfinity race here last year. Actually had pretty good speed in the Cup race as well last year before the actual race. We had a trans issue, but before that, I was really happy with the way the weekend went. So I really felt like this was a place we'd be able to capitalize and gain a couple points and probably have a good run. And I think a couple things played against us there, but just went through the bus stop there, and there was just a wall of dirt as everybody ran off. And so as soon as it cleared through it, there was a car sitting there backwards, and just tried to avoid it, and pretty much cost us a handful of spots and decent amount of points. So it's a bummer it worked out the way it did, but I guess the little bit of the silver lining is we did gain a couple points on that 30th position.
I'll go here to the middle and then up to Reed.
Dave Sully, Area Auto Racing News. Could you tell me whether there was any give and take at all today, or was it cutthroat the whole day? It just didn't seem like nobody was giving anybody any quarter. Was that because of the track or the grip, or was it just because it just hard racing?
Where I was at, there wasn't any give and take, that's for sure. And I think you walk up and down the grid post race here, they're all pretty beat up. So. I think it's just hard racing. Road courses are, they've been getting that way. And I think they've always probably been that way. They're just a lot of beat up race cars, trying to outbrake guys, and, getting into the bus stop is extremely difficult when you're 2-3 wide. And back there where we were at restarting in the 20s, you go in the bus stops, everybody's jammed up going through the S's, and they fan out trying to get in the bus stop thinking that's their best place to pass. And you find yourselves 3 wide, and it's hard enough to go 2 wide through there. So I think that's where some of the carnage comes from.
We'll go to Reed and then over to the side.
Reed Spencer with NASCAR Wire. Was there confusion about whether you had to stay in the car or had to get out of the car? It seemed like there were different opinions on the radio.
Yeah, I was just trying, from where I was, we barely caught the wall on the inside there. Basically, just the splitter hooked up in the mud, and I know when I ran off course trying to avoid the Ford, it swung all kinds of grass over the car, and I knew what the issue was, so I was just trying to get them to push, and we're sitting downhill splitters caked up under mud. It actually broke it loose, so it was pretty packed. And I guess my hope was just that we could be pushed backwards, and they don't have any straps or anything to be able to hook to the back, so basically they're just depending on being able to push the back bumper to get you moving, and we obviously didn't have that opportunity. So I get it. I mean, I get why they made me get out, but I was just really frustrated and trying really hard to stay in it so that we could keep rolling without losing any spots.
We'll take our final question for Chris.
Hi, George Webster, Ignition Magazine. Now that you're in a position of potentially being in the chase, unlike your sort of semi-colleagues at Roush, are you expecting more assistance from Roush or from Ford to try to help you improve your results for the rest of the season?
I think we've been working towards that way anyway. I mean, we've been trying to basically get as close as we can to the Roush teams over there at Front Row Motorsports. So they've been working extremely hard to put good cars on the racetrack, and I feel like we can lean on them a little bit more, try and get a little bit better information, parts and pieces. If we can get as good stuff as possible to try and get to that top 30, I think it's reasonable. We're gonna have to see how everything plays out here in the next couple hours. Probably it's going to be a quick turnaround, and at the end of the day, we did gain a couple points. Only on the 30th position. I know we lost on the 29th, and that puts us in a really small bubble. So we got to do a good job these next few. Take the off weekend, go visit some family out in Texas, come back regrouped, and be ready to go to Bristol. We're pretty good there last time. And Front Row Motorsports bring some good cars to that track. Me and Landon both were happy with the speed of our cars, so I feel like that'll be a place we can go gain some points and maybe put a little bit of a cushion on that chase bubble right there for us.
All right, Chris. Well, thanks for joining us this evening, and enjoy the off week at home.
Will do. Thank you.
We will continue with our post-race media availabilities for today's Cheese at 3:55 at the Glen. We are joined by our second-place finisher, Joey Logano, the driver of the number 22 Shell Pennzoil Ford. Joey, why don't you take us through that final lap there?
The final lap or the final 15? It was crazy any way you look at it. Typical Watkins Glen, man, it's just awesome. Crazy racing. Full contact, just insane out there. So a lot of fun from the driver's seat, and I'm sure the fans today loved it as well in front of a sold-out grandstand. So it's pretty cool when I pulled over for the red flag in front of the grandstands, and I can hear just fans screaming and yelling and loving it. And I thought, man, this is really cool to be in the driver's seat right now. And I don't know, I had one of those moments I thought it was neat. But overall, our car was really good today. Driver shot himself in the foot a little bit with getting some damage on the bus stop when we were working our way back through the field, and ripped a splitter up, and then that was kind of the beginning of the end. Really hurt our race car through the fast parts of the racetrack, so through the S's, carousel, a little bit of 11. Didn't really hurt us in the bus stop any, and that's where we were the fastest car. But we got ourselves in position to win the race. But I didn't have the speed in the race car to make it happen. So, and it wasn't anyone's fault but mine. So, a little mad at that. We got so close to that sweep again here at Watkins Glen, winning yesterday, and getting second today. So, just so close. Just wish I could take one corner back of the whole race, and we'd been probably sitting in victory lane right now. I thought we were faster in the 11 through the parts that we needed to be early in the race to be able to beat them. So unfortunately, we're sitting here second, but not awful considering what our car looked like.
All right, we'll now open up to questions for Joey. Please raise your hand. We'll get a mic to you. Up here.
Hi, Joey. Tyler Head from the Racing Experts. We're seeing a couple of other drivers, your teammate Brad and also AJ Allmendinger, beating themselves up about contact in the last corner on the last lap with people that they didn't really want to hit at that point. Can you think of a time in your career where you've been in that position and had to try to make amends?
That's funny you ask me. Duh. Yeah, there's been plenty of times where it's aggressive racing, and sometimes you're on the other end of it. Last week I was on the other end of it, and to me, the protocol is, show some respect the next few weeks and hope the dust settles. That's pretty much what you can do. There's accidents happen. We're pushing these things so hard. We're trying to stop from 180 to 70 or 80 miles an hour. We're cutting off like 100 miles an hour going into the bus stop. And we're trying to do that too wide where there's only one lane through there. Someone's going to hit somebody. Someone's feelings are going to get hurt. And it depends how understanding the other individual is. And sometimes you can look at it and say, hey, it's a racing thing, and next few weeks just give me room. Unless it's going to become something bigger than what it needs to be, each situation probably needs to be handled differently depending on who you're dealing with. But yeah, I've dealt with it plenty of times. Just seems like I think I'm doing okay the last few weeks. I think I didn't make anyone mad today. I don't believe so. Hey, there's a little victory.
Question in the middle.
Joey, it was obvious that the problem area for 2 days was the bus stop and the dust. Would you recommend that they do something about that? I don't know what they could do to eliminate that. You're going to make it straight. That's but each time somebody did it, splitters are coming off. They're plowing. Now the guys behind you are going all over the place. I don't know if it's asking if it's fair, but do you think maybe there's something they could do, or do you think that's just leave it that way and know that it's going to happen and deal with it?
I think it's great. It's part of it, That's what makes it so interesting. You can't make the racetrack to where it's just too easy to get around and you can make mistakes and not pay a penalty. Then everyone's going to go straight through it all the time, Or you don't want it to make it to where you got to make a stop and go and make it a judgment call on NASCAR's part. If it's all paved and you put your left sides too far off on the other side of the curb and you got to make a stop and go. Just leave it the way it is. Let us handle it ourselves. It becomes crazy because you don't know what it's like until you get there if dirt's on the racetrack. And yesterday was a great example for me. I was leading the race and, I went in a corner in the bus stop and it was like dirt everywhere. And it was like a dirt track and I went sliding off the track because of it. But it keeps it interesting. It changes things up. I don't know. I don't want to make it too boring, make it just idiot-proof out there. You want to make it to where there's a penalty for mistakes and not make it to where NASCAR has to make judgment calls. That's not what we want to make.
We'll go to Zach.
Zach at Hands Ready Front Stretch. Describe what it looks like when you go through dirt. Are you really almost blind going through there, or do you have to kind of remember where you are on the track, maybe look at the car in front of you? How bad does the visual get?
Well, if you see dirt or smoke, and a fine example is what the 2-car was going through in the last corner there, as a 78 was sideways, he couldn't see. And there's no visuals because you can't see 2 feet in front of you. You can't even see the hood of your car. So it's like, where am I? And you see that constantly every week. If someone crashes in front of somebody and it's just you get in a cloud of smoke and you see nothing. You thought the fog in Pocono was bad. It's a lot worse than that. And that's just, it's a product of, just racing in general. When these things get sideways, they put a hell of a smoke show up, and that's what they get. Or dirt, you can't see, and you kind of go off memory of where you last could see and try to drive through it and hope no one's on the other side of it.
Go to Jerry.
Jerry Jordan, former Station Network, Kicking the Tires. Let's go back to you ticking people off.
Oh, great, thanks, yeah. Come on, now you're trying to get me to tick someone off.
When you do, or they do it to you, does it really matter that they come over and say, hey, I'm sorry, my bad?
Yes, it definitely does. It's owning your mistakes or whatever it was. If it wasn't a mistake, don't say anything. But I think owning it is super important. And a lot of times in these things too, it's kind of funny. it kind of strikes a conversation and somewhat kind of strikes a relationship that maybe you didn't have with that particular driver. And not saying that it's like automatic we're friends, but sometimes you let it go a year and you find yourself racing cleaner with each other than you did before. Or cleaner with anybody else than anyone else. It just kind of you got to treat it with kids' gloves because it's a fragile situation on both ends. And I think part of it too is everyone's looking to try to, okay, what can I get out of it? You ruined my day. What are you going to do for me? And that's rightfully so for the other individual. How are you gonna make this up to me? It's probably the common question that if you're sitting on the bad end of it is the question you ask is, how do I get this back?
Go to Holly.
Holly Keene, NASCAR.com. Kind of along those lines, is a sorry always enough?
No, usually not. No, it's actions speak louder than words, right? So, it's just like any other situation. If you have a conflict with another media individual in here, saying you're sorry is one thing. Maybe you need to take them to dinner. I don't know. That's, I think there's different things you can do. Really, the biggest thing is just show some respect out there on the racetrack. Maybe let someone go, make their life easy for the next few weeks until the dust settles. That's basically what you can do. Talk is cheap, basically. I guess it's admirable of someone to come up and own their mistake, but like I said, talk is cheap as well. You gotta, if you want to talk the talk, you gotta walk the walk with it.
Come back up here to the front.
Lee Spencer, Motorsport.com. Were you kind of blown away by all the penalties? It just seemed there was a rash of speeding penalties, and your team, every team, got on the radio when it first started and said, slow down, slow down. Still, even the warnings weren't enough to save some of you guys on pit road.
Yeah, the way we calculate our pit road, something was off. And I'm not blaming this on NASCAR in no way possible. This is something that the teams did not get the correct information or missed something within the information of the rollout of the tire, in my opinion. Typically we're able to calculate this and put it into our dashes of how fast we need to go. And for me, it's how many green lights. For some people, it might be yellows or reds, whatever color they want, I guess. And, for me, I felt like, hey, I went down pit road like I did every other time. I should have a good rolling time. Shouldn't be a problem. And, and then you get busted and you're like, huh. And it's always the constant thing everyone always says after it. There's no way, right? That's what everyone always says. But, I think when there's that many cars that get penalized, there's something that, that the teams missed. And I doubt that everybody made a mistake. These race teams are way too smart for everyone to make one mistake like that. There's some kind of missing link in the data or something that they were calculating with that put us over. Thanks.
All right, Joey. Well, thanks for joining us. Congratulations on the great weekend here at the Glen.
Great. Thanks, guys.
We will continue with our post-race media availabilities for today's Cheese at 3:55 at the Glen. We are now joined by the crew chief of the car that won today's race, Michael Wheeler, the crew chief for the number 11 FedEx Freight Toyota. Michael, why don't you take us through getting you guys that first road course win there?
Yeah, I remember 07 here where we actually ran top three with Tony Stewart and Jeff Gordon. Thought we had a shot at it, and Denny will tell you he had a chance to move Jeff Gordon for the win and didn't, because he thought it'd be easy to win another road course race, and that was 2007. So coming back to Sonoma this year, it was like you want to get him back running good and back up front in road courses, and fortunately we finished second there, really close. And coming into this weekend, I was kind of had high hopes. We had some good cars. Obviously, I know I got a great team. Had some momentum with road course races. I knew our teammates were a little bit faster before today. I thought the 8 team was really, really class of the field. But end of the day, we took a top 3 car, had good pit stops, good strategy. Strategy worked out in our favor. Our spotters did a really good job all day, and we brought home the trophy.
And we're also joined by the winning car owner, Joe Gibbs. Coach, why don't you talk to us about what it means for Joe Gibbs Racing to help Denny complete that collection there for his shelf?
Well, first of all, it's great for us to be able to come to New York and Watkins Glen, a race like this. I want to say congratulations to everybody here. What impressed me a lot was that crowd. To have a sellout crowd here is huge for our sport. It's big for all of our sponsors, and we had a number of them here with us this weekend. Obviously, this race is a huge race for FedEx, and when you got somebody like that and that sponsors your car, as we all know in our sport, it's really a partnership with the sponsors, and you can't race without them. So it's a big deal for us, big deal for FedEx, big deal for our race team. Denny, I felt like at Sonoma, it was a heartbreak there to go to the last corner and lose a race out there on a road course, and then to bounce back and come back here and race like you did today. They were big hitters up front that were great road racers. And for him to come out on top here, I think it says a lot about Denny, and I think you got to consider him a threat now. I consider him a threat everywhere we go, but certainly at a road race now, I think he's proven that he's somebody that can contend for a win. It's the thrill for all of us. Everybody back home called JD and had a chance, and Denny and JD have a real bond, I think. And Denny was nice enough to talk to JD there, and it was great. So anyway, thrill for all of us.
Thanks, Coach. We're going to open up to questions for Mike and Coach. We're going to start up front with Lee.
Lee Spencer, Motorsport.com. Wheels, how concerned were you about Denny's back? I saw him in the driver's meeting. He couldn't even sit down. I think he said, someone said on TV afterwards, he said Eric Jones, might be standing by just in case. But, how concerned were you guys?
Yeah. I mean, I got the text this morning when he woke up and he was in trouble, and he said it, and it was like, not something you really want to hear, especially when, you got good cars and good teammates and track position to start. But end of the day, I know he mans up when he needs to. I almost want to say if he knew he didn't have a winning car, he might do something different. But I know he definitely gets that attitude going in the car when he has a winning car, can run up front and tough it out. I mean, I know he's in pain. I know probably if we were practicing today, he wouldn't be practicing, Like you said, you saw him in the driver's meeting. I sat next to him, and, while it's uncomfortable, he couldn't even sit down. He was trying to make himself comfortable, and he stood up, and you could just tell he was in pain, and nothing you can do today to fix it, and he's been running pretty hard lately. I've been busy, with the sport and everything else. He's had this happen before, years ago. But he knows the situation he was in, and he knows he's just got to tough it out, and he did.
Any additional questions for Mike or Coach? All right, gentlemen, congratulations on the win, and enjoy the off week.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, we are now joined by the winner of today's Cheese at 355 at the Glen, the driver of the number 11 FedEx Freight Toyota, Denny Hamlin. Denny, you've had a couple big wins this year, filling a couple of voids in your resume there. Talk about what it's like to get that first road course win.
Yeah, it was a great day, obviously, on the racetrack. It was an eventful race, but an uneventful race for us. We executed perfectly, didn't make any mistakes on pit road. Pit crew did great. We had a great strategy there at the end. Made a great call to stay out, hoping for those caution laps that we needed, knowing that the trend was that we were going to get those caution laps. That allowed us to make it on fuel. And then there at the end, really, we just executed on our restarts. That's been key, is you got to get through the first couple corners on restarts. And really for us, those two guys were going for it. They slipped up and opened up a door for us to go through there and win.
All right, we'll open up to questions for Denny. We'll start up here with Holly, then go to Reed.
Holly Kane, NASCAR.com. Congratulations, Denny. Does it feel as aggressive and crazy for you as it does for the rest of us watching on the road course races? I know people say all the time, well, it's like that all the time, but it looks different at a road course.
It does. I mean, there's so many opportunities. People, you can see the lead right there in front of you. Even if you're in 8th place, their leader is right there, and so you're trying to dive in the corners and do everything you can to make a move, and the track is barely wide enough. It's a one-lane racetrack. It's just when we go to pass, you have to force somebody out of the way, or they got to give you the spot, and when they don't, it makes for very exciting wrecks. And so it just seems like really over the last 5 years or so, the road courses have taken a turn to be more aggressive. I think it has a lot to do with the chase format. Guys seeing this as a win and you're in type format. It's their opportunity when they really don't have cars that are competitive on the other racetracks. So I think that that lends itself a little bit to it. But yeah, I can see it on the track for sure. It looks from my cockpit just like it does on TV.
Go up here to Reed.
Reed Spencer with the NASCAR Wire. Mike said a few minutes ago that if it had been a practice session today because of your back, you probably would not have been in the car if it hadn't been a race. How bad was it? Did it get better or worse as the race went along? And do you have any idea what causes it?
I don't know what causes it. It just happens every now and then. It's never happened on a race day for sure. Usually I'm in the car and things get looser as the weekend goes on. And really, I haven't had back problems in the last probably 4 to 5 years. It's all subsided pretty well. I've got a pretty good routine that I do during the week that helps with that. But just today, slept wrong, something, woke up and knew I was in pretty big trouble. So we worked on it all day to try to make it better. We really didn't make it much better, but yeah, no doubt. If it was Friday or Saturday, no question, I wouldn't have turned one lap today. So it was by far the worst conditions I've ever had to drive in, over the knees, over anything else. This was by far the worst, pain-wise, I've had to go through. So it didn't get any better throughout the day. Trust me, I'm sitting there, and even though I'm joyed that we're leading the race, I was thinking under the red flag, I got to get out of this car. Let's get this over with so I can get out of this car. So, I don't know why it did it today, but I'll just continue to go to work on it and try to get in the gym and try to make things a little bit better overall, because I have missed my routine because I had to travel over the last few weeks, and I've kind of got off sequence of my routine that's helped my back. So I don't think it'll go away. By Tuesday, I'll be back fine again. So it's just a pain right now.
Take our next 2 questions over on the side here.
Bob Benz, Corning Leader. You mentioned that you were strong in the restarts. I think it was about 10 laps to go where you were, I think, in about the 4th position, and you jumped in the lead. Just take us through that restart and getting in the lead, which you kept for the rest of the race.
Yeah, I mean, I got a really good restart on the 2. I was in 3rd position. Kyle was outside in 2nd, and Brad was leading. And really, I got a good jump to where I was able to stay right on the 2's bumper entering the corner. And then I saw the 18 lunge forward. He didn't let off until he made sure Brad did. And so it kind of forced Brad's hand to drive in there deeper to not let that 18 clear him. So by doing that, I knew that I entered the corner as fast as I was going to enter and still be able to get out. And when I saw them shoot forward and lunge into the corner, I knew there was no possible way for them to get out with any sensible speed. So it was my opportunity when they slid up the racetrack to execute, and we came through.
Chris Gill, also the leader. There were a lot of unforced errors on pit lane that you just talked about. What conditions led to all those, do you believe?
Yeah, I'm not sure about pit lane. Luckily for us, we pitted a little bit later than everyone else, and we had got my spotter and crew chief keyed in that there were a tremendous amount of pit road penalties. So I just backed it down an extra light or 2 on pit road to make sure I didn't make a mistake. I've already got a well-rounded record on pit road this year. So I knew that it's very hard to win these races if you make any mistakes. I only made 1 mistake at Sonoma, and it was in the final corner, and I didn't win. So really it was a great day of execution overall, whether it be pit lane, restarts, everything on the track. I think I missed 1 corner into turn one time, about halfway, but other than that, pretty flawless race for us.
We'll go to Nate and then Brant.
Nate Ryan, ABC Sports. Denny, just looking back at Sonoma and now to here, and with the season you've had since Daytona, I mean, does it feel like validating, I guess, to have a day like this today when everybody else is making mistakes, your team executes mainly flawlessly, and you kind of put to rest whatever happened back in California in June?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, it wasn't a fluke. It was the biggest thing is that, sometimes you see guys run up front in a road course, and you're like, well, where'd that come from? And it happens once. But I really think that we've turned the corner, really with all of our Toyota teams. I know 2 of my teammates tested up here and had a good test. We used their baseline setup when we got here, and we had speed right from the get-go. So I think really you're seeing with all the Toyota teams, Furniture Row and Gibbs, that we've got something that's working well for us. We're all working extremely well together, and it's lending itself to on-track success. And when you have multiple cars with speed like we do, when one makes a mistake, there's another one there to pick up the pieces. So we were there to pick up the pieces today.
We'll go to Brant. There's a microphone right behind you, Brant.
Brant James, USA Today Sports. It seems like in both wins this year, there was a common thread. At the key moment, you responded to something the leaders did and pulled it off in go time. I mean, certainly you would probably rather lead every lap and make it nice and boring. But
actually, I'd rather lead just the final lap. That makes
perfect.
it more exciting.
Okay, perfect. But it's you must be encouraged or whatever that at that crucial moment you were able to seize on that both times.
I do, and honestly, it's more validating because I feel so awful. I mean, I know there were many corners that I underdrove just because my feel wasn't as good today in the race car. So that's how we feel the edge is through our backside. When our backside's not healthy, it's tough. So that's what made it extra special is that when it was game time, when it was go time, we got it done.
Come over here to Tyler.
Hi, Denny. Tyler Head from the Racing Experts. Sort of piggybacking off of those last 2 questions. Obviously, it was a slip at Sonoma that cost you the win there. Did you have anything creeping into your mind over those last few restarts and in those final couple of laps with Martin right behind you there, worrying about making a mistake, or was your head in the game, I guess?
No, it was, but I also, I gave up a little bit on corner entry to make sure that I hit my marks. It was my job to make them make a move on me instead of don't overshoot the corner and then just open the door for them. Make them make an aggressive move to pass you. By doing that, you're being a little defensive and you're not getting the 100% out of the race car, and you're allowing them to get closer. But I saw, the gap that I had going to the white. I was 2 lengths. I'd been really strong off of turn 1 all day, and I think I stretched it to 3. We go up the S's. He gets a little closer through the carousel, gets a little closer yet. And with that wreck that happened on the last caution, the turn 5 carousel was ice. And so I slid up the racetrack twice there. And, luckily those guys did too. But I think just being a little defensive on that final couple laps, making sure I didn't pull a Sonoma was, allowed them to get a little closer than what I was comfortable with. I could see in my mirror, even though I'm looking straight, you can see when a car is close, and I could see Martin shoot to the right out of 6, and I knew my position then was to block right and force him to make a very aggressive move. And really the 2 and the 78 got together probably before the 78 got to me. So it was good for us, bad for them for sure. But it was my job today was just to make sure I executed, and if someone was going to beat us, they had to do it on their own.
All right, Denny, well, congratulations on the win, and enjoy celebrating for an extra week with this one.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll sit right next to you. Get the mic so I don't sound bad.
Been better.
Feeling okay sitting down?
Yes.
Okay, as long as see, I'm about to do this, but